Hey everybody, HonestlySarcastc here. So, a lot of people liked the going through people's deck list thing. Pretty much kind of, I don't know, there's some theoretical shame and whatnot there, but that's not the intent behind that. We're probably going to do a little bit of that today, but I think what I'll do is I'll pick out a couple decks and probably throw out some suggestions how they could be more efficient. But pretty much first off, what I should probably do is just actually explain kind of like how one would be efficient in general. Um, so one second, I'm just trying to make sure that I have everything on screen as well as possible. Um, so like the way I would say it is like this, right? Like in the old days, because some of you guys are much newer, um, it was all based off of what we currently had, right? So field medic was one of the main ones. It cost one, it healed 2 damage from a character. So we had a base expectation of if you paid a resource and used a card, it was worth about 2 damage, right? So like heal 2, that's fine. But the same thing applied to removal. So like if you used flank, it was like the same concept. You'd pay 1, you'd remove a die that probably did like 2 damage, yada yada. And that's kind of where like the whole same concept comes up with like the resource, right? Because if you did he doesn't like you, you used up your die plus a card for the damage, and in theory your die was worth about 1. If you often look at cards that kind of roll your dice back in, you're paying probably about an average of 1 per die being rolled in. They determined quickly that if they let you do things like you know FN2199 and roll in multiple dice kind of free or cheap, that they were just largely mistaken because the value was just too good. So like just kind of have in your mind that 1 cost plus a card is 2 damage. The other thing was that like 0 cost plus a card was worth 1 damage. I For the life of me I can't remember the actual effect right now, or the actual name of the card. But On Guard fits a similar concept. You're 0, give a character a shield. Whatever. Spend a resource to rate and upgrades, like a whole separate sub effect. And the ambush is also like kind of like a bonus. But the base concept is 0 for 1. Because we had several cards that were like 0. I think like heal 1 damage, just straight up. I think it was blue. We had 0. Get a shield, 0, like get a health for like the attached equipment. So like those are the base concepts. Once you get to 2 is where it also kind of got kind of wonky, because it would be 2 plus a card for 3 damage. So they essentially equated a card to a damage, and then past that was for every resource. But the main issue with that is like that doesn't realistically apply. I would say like a card is probably about half a damage. And then 1 resource is probably about like 1.5 damage at least. And like that goes in line a bit better when you start thinking about like paying to play cards and whatnot like that. But these were essentially the cards that kind of did that job, where we'd see like 2 for 3. Like if you think of like No Mercy and any of the events that kind of like pump your damage, like you would often find like 2 for 2 extra damage, but if it was for healing, they did 2 for 3. So just kind of keep that in mind, right? Like in Tango, you pay 2, you remove 3 value worth of dice, essentially like that. So you're always looking to get higher than that for pretty much. You're always looking to get more for cheap, right? And if you get more for cheap, then you're thrilled. Like Force Illusion, you paid 1. Sure, you milled some cards, but they weren't in your hand, and you would often stop 3 plus damage, because you had the potential for stopping like 4s, maybe even 5s at times, which is like absolutely bananas. So that's like the first thing to kind of keep in mind when we're looking at like value and whatnot. So switching back over, if we're kind of just going through like the cards, right? Like I'm not gonna go with every card because that'll just take for forever. I'm looking for key cards, but the problem is like I can't remember half of the freaking names. So like this card, right? Trap the Blade. Cost 1. It removes a die showing melee damage, period. If it's an upgrade die, you may spot a blue character and spend 1 resource to discard its matching card in play. So paying 1 to remove a die showing melee damage is like, oh man, like it's very specific, and that's very real unfortunate. But that part where you can kill an upgrade die by paying an extra resource is absolutely ridiculous. The thing you got to understand here is, like, let's say someone plays like a Dagger of Mortis, Crossguard's a little different. Um, Anakin's lightsaber, Rey's lightsaber. If you can pay one to eat the die, and then pay one more to kill it, you did a lot. Like, you'll have paid two to effectively kill it, right? So like your expectations, you might be going like 2 for 2. But if this ever hits something like a Darksaber, a Sheehan Mastery, it's like completely lights out and bananas. The dilemma is that unless the format is a lot of melee, like, you really shouldn't be running this, or if you run it, it can't be more than like a one of. Unless you just absolutely hate people, right? Like, if you just want to like kill Palp Saber and kind of just like destroy Raylo, like, sure, go for it. But that's like a crazy hate card, but it has the potential for a lot of value. But if they don't have an upgrade that has damage, melee damage, but they have like character dice with melee damage, it's just, it's fairly even there, but it stinks because it's dead in so many other matches. So like, this is more of like a niche card than like, oh, this is so much better than the rule. Like, yes, it could be, but it's very seldom going to actually be that good. So like, it's where kind of like rule of 2 becomes kind of crazy, because like, oh well, like, it costs 0 and you'd be getting +1 value on your dice. The main dilemma there is that like, it's very specific with like your build, so you're probably already losing something there. But the pump on it is pretty sweet. Pretty trashy stuff. There's lots of like bad cards. Deal 1 damage after a claim's pretty terrible. That's why like 0, like, look into the opponent's hand and like mess with it is absolutely bananas. Like, the look part is what messes up. If this was just like they draw 2 and you throw 2 back, then it's like whatever. But the look at the hand and picking 2 is insane. I'll handle this myself is similar to Force Strike of the old days. The only dilemma is that you have to control only one character for you to like fast resolve it. So for one, it's like awful. It only focuses your character die, which is like so-so. It's fine, right? Like, if you're trying to do Dryden stuff, this is interesting. But you won't get to resolve it pretty much unless it's in that situation where, like, I don't know, you somehow gave up like a Rindar off of like best defense or something. But it does have some plays here. Late game, flip to like your base 3 or special or something, and then like resolve right away. And then early on, you can just like flip it to the side you want. But paying 1 for a focus is essentially kind of like the norm. So for this to be very particular about it only hitting character dice isn't like overwhelming by any means. God, I'm failing at finding cards. Okay, so like Viper Droid here, right? So like Viper Droid 0, it's going to end up costing you 1, and you're going to need a red character, but it has a lot of viability because it's after their die rolls damage. So like, you can't do anything if they focus, but on initial rollout it'll work, on rerolls it'll work, and there's a lot of times where you don't have access to multi-die mitigation. So this in combination with any of the other single target stuff, Forsakens, Hidden Motives, can put you in a good spot to be able to hit multiples. Not to mention if you're playing against like Kragan or something, or like you're using Kragan and they roll out and they only hit the 1 damage side, so you're like, oh, Viper that, okay, activate steal your resource. Puts you in a really good position for that stuff. Probably gotta get rid of this Mend one because it keeps popping up as I click back. Like the value on Director is like reasonable. So like, you're paying 1, and then if you resolve a red die showing resource, you can roll the die back out. So essentially, it'll have paid for itself, right? Because you're going to get to re-roll that die. With stuff like Krennic, who has multiple resource sides, you're almost guaranteed to be able to do that, provided your opponent didn't mitigate. Meaning that you can try to treat this like a binds all things. You put it in, resolve the resource, roll the die back out. So then each round later, you're going to get value, and then once you overwrite it, you'll get additional value. So like, you could do something where, so like, I think I talked about Kragan Krennic before, where you like roll a Krennic, okay, you found the resource, you throw Director on Kragan, you resolve the resource, roll it back in, and then now if you hit the resource again, you can be at 3, and then you could like overwrite Director into like an Admiral. or override into like a pulse cannon and still have one left. So like there's some sneaky ways to try to get like immediate value from this. But yeah, there's not many cards that usually kind of fit the mold of what we're looking for in each set. If there were like 4 or 5 of them, you're usually already in a good place. There's a lot of like weird janky stuff. So this one, yeah, Plunder just kind of eats an opponent's resource for free. So like here, let's talk about the value on a pirate ship, because this one's a little weird. So the pirate ship costs 4. So based on like the concept we were talking about, if you're doing 4, you're probably expecting to get about 6 to 8 damage worth for it to have kind of been worth its cost. So like it being 1 card and 4 resources, you would think like, all right, like I need to get 8 because 4 resources 8, but because it's 1 card, sometimes you can get a little bit less and be content with it. I tend to look at the high end of the value, so I'm looking to get like 8. So because it's after you activate the support, you may remove a die showing damage. Your expectation is that each time that does it, it's going to probably stop 2 damage. Assuming you're playing against a damage deck. If you're playing against like Mill or something that just has no damage sides, then you kind of just weep inside. But so then each time you're eating a die, your expectation is you're getting 1 resource worth of value. So 2 activations would have got 2 resources worth, meaning that from the actual dice over 2 activations, you probably need to just get 2 damage each time. Seeing as we have a 2 damage, a +2, a 3-for-1, 2 disrupt, and a shield, there is some value here for potential. But it's really just the 2 ranged and the 2 disrupt that are like high value. The 2 disrupt, if someone lets you 2 disrupt them, you've already paid for half of the card. So like if you get to roll out, eat a 2, and then 2 disrupt them for the full 2, that's 3 resources worth. Essentially, like realistically, you tend to lean and err more towards your own side for getting resources and whatnot. But the 3-for-1 indirect's pretty terrible until hitting for large amounts of damage is relevant, because spending your own resource for that kind of just sets you back. This is like, for my mind, this is almost like doing a 1 indirect until the opponent's health pool is low enough. So it's just like, oh, that's kind of not great. And then you have the modified side, so you have to find a pair with it. And then if they mitigate the base side, like where you're re-rolling just these other dice like a jackass, or did you only have focus to focus that 1 die and then they mitigate it and you just like threw a bunch of dice and value down the drain. So like the actual sides on this pirate ship are not amazing. It's primarily built off of this ability. So like normal usage wise, you probably wouldn't want any part of this unless you had a bunch of ranged. In which case it like it plays well enough at that point. Either that or if you have a pirate. So I've been using this in Kragan because it goes they roll out, and then I'm like, all right, eat your damage, roll out, steal your resource. And it's largely problematic for them, because if I'm stealing resources off Kragan, then the value kickback is immense, because they've lost a resource and I've gained a resource. So it's like a 2 resource swing. So then like if I paid this for 4, 8 2 damage, stole their resource because of this, and then got to resolve this, like even a shield side at that point, like it's pretty much already paid for itself. So it ends up being like absolutely bananas. But like that's one of those cards where like it's very particular in like the cost efficiency for it. I was looking more for removal to kind of talk about, but this is like kind of trashy. Okay, so here we go. Here's a good example, right? So like some people would be like, oh my god, Nullify is broken, and it's like, well, hold the fuck up. So it costs 0. It's like, all right, it's starting in a good place. So you have to move 1 shield from one of your characters to an opponent's character, then remove a die. So here's the dilemma. You gave up a shield, which could be which is the equivalent to 1 health, right? But now you could be giving up off a guy you don't care about. So then it's like, okay, the health there for yourself doesn't necessarily matter. It's like, all right. So then you give it to an opponent. So now you've given them 1 health. That's a 2 health swing. But still, again, you could give it to one of their guys you don't care about, and then you remove a die. So it costs 0, but you've given up 2 health to then remove a die. So if you remove a 2 damage die, you kind of had like a net 0. This is better like a stall card more than anything else. Like for Mill, this would be great if you just had extra shields to give up. But kind of like that overall dilemma is just that like you gave them extra health and stopped some damage you were taking. And like that trade off is just like if you need to just slow them down. So you're like, let's say you have a main guy, you can't let that main guy get die. Then you can do that. I keep looking at like my own photo thing, so sorry about that. So you would only really want to use this if you could either A, do something like to get those shields back, or kind of just make them useless. So like with Raylo, you could, give them a shield, then Kylo ping it off, and then re-roll your die. And like there's ways to get value there. But without something like that, like Nullify is pretty weak. So if you're like mid and you don't need to kind of stall like in that method, then you kind of just don't want any part of Nullify in general. So let's see what else we got. Stand Firm is kind of like the ghetto, he doesn't like you. Remove any number of your dice showing a shield to remove that many dice. Because it's a 1 die for 1 die type thing, unless you have a lot of shield dice, it's just largely not good enough. If you were playing like Luke 3, who has like the 3 shield sides on his die, then, you could be willing to have this for that, because like, if you have the 1 shield, you're like, okay, but how much do you have to hit for there, right? Like, you're paying 0. If you give up your shield, that's like 1 damage or health. And if you stop at 2, this thing's only done 0 for 1. So it's just like, why almost bother at that point? And like, that's where the struggle is. If you hit like a 3, then you got the two value out of it. So like, it can be immense there. But like, that's what I was talking about. It's just like, you end up paying like 0 for 1, and you needed to have a specific die, and it's just like the value there is just like, all right. Whereas like, let's talk about Anakin's lightsaber, because this is a weird one. So for Anakin's lightsaber, your expectation is you need to hit about 6 damage. So in 2 rounds, if you hit the 2 twice, you're like, okay, these two melees are fine, the 2 shields fine, the resources fine, all's well, right? The main part is that you can give one of their guys a shield that you don't care about, and then give your guy 2 shields. So because this kind of just makes shields come out of nowhere. Wait a second. Where's Nullify? Yeah, move. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't misreading Nullify like an idiot. So because you can give them 1 health to gain 2 health, you can put it on a guy that isn't being targeted, and you could put your shields on the guy that is being targeted, meaning that like you're going to be in a really good place as far as like you've kind of been able to stop some of their aggression, whilst also like increasing your capability for damage. So the way I really view this one is because you're giving a shield to a guy you don't care about, that's not a negative at all, whereas you get 2 shields right away. So this could definitely pay itself off in 2 rounds, and it is redeploy, so it's around the whole game in theory. Unless the opponent plays that other shitty card that like blows it up. But just looking for like just value stuff. There's not a ton, man. Not a ton to kind of go with. Feat of Strength is a solid one. If you have a 10 health character, you can remove a die showing damage. If you're running Fortitude, then you could potentially get 2. So like there could be extra value there, but 1 to stop damage is about correct for what you'd be looking for. Blah blah blah. Lothcat Mouse, they pick your best die, so if you have actual damage showing, then this thing's really bad. But when you only have like trash dice showing, or you only have that 1 die that you didn't care about, then the value there is immense. So let's just zoom in so it's easier to read. 0 cost, force an opponent to remove 1 of your dice, then remove 1 of their dice. So, solid value there, but it's not amazing. Like you're not really happy about Lothcat, but it does the job more frequently than not, because you only cast it when you absolutely need to. Fluid Riposte is a pretty good one. 1 cost, spot a blue guy to remove a die showing damage, and then if you have Sheehan Mastery, deal 1. So the thing here is if you have the Sheehan Mastery, you're playing a Sheehan Mastery deck, you stop 2 damage, you deal 1, you got 1 for 3, and 1 for 3 is quite strong. Not to mention if you're playing against the deck that has bigger damage sides, then you can get more. The downfall is if you need to remove like a 1 damage, then it's like terrible. If you hit an indirect, if you hit 2 indirect, like you still stop 2 damage, even though it's not focused 2 damage. But if you stop a 3 indirect, you're like, okay. Especially since like if you're playing Fluid Riposte, you're probably playing like a 2-character deck. And your 2-character deck's probably sitting at like 20 to 23 health. Ah. All right. Like a Sail, I've tried playing. It wasn't very good. You have to have a lot of piloting for that to be, valuable. So here, let's just talk about Eject, because like that's that really weird one. So, Eject, Ambush. Discard a vehicle you control to heal 2 damage from one of its piloting characters and give that character 2 shields. So, heal and 2 shields is 4 damage, where you're like, oh man, that's crazy, right? And then discard a vehicle. 1 second. Yeah, so you have to be playing piloting for this, so it's already like a minor struggle for that. But the big thing here is that if you have like 1-cost vehicles, you'll have done 1 resource, 2 cards, for healing 2 and 2 shields. So like the value there could be really good. Where I really like this card is something with like Merchant Freighter. Because you go get a resource, and you go get a resource the second round, and now you're maybe your guy's close to getting to death, and then you eject off of it. You're just like, all right, get out of here, heal me 4, and it's already paid for itself. It did its job. It was a vehicle. Piloting usually is, depending on what you're doing, is going to be a little weird there, but if you do that with the eject, especially if you get all 3 off, so this is like round 3, this is like a blowout because the Merchant Freighter is just useless at that point. So there are some disgusting possibilities with ejecting off those. You're probably not going to be able to eject off of the 1-cost Pod Racer well, because that's not very good. I don't see a mill deck realistically running like Anakin's Pod, but also still have piloting. So that's probably just not super likely. But if you get rid of something that costs like 2, then that's where this card becomes much, much worse. There are situations where you could, like, I don't know, throw like a Luke ship, then play a new one and get usage out of it. So there are some small niche situations where you can kind of get that going. But if you can do this off like the 1-cost ones, then there's just some nutty things you could end up doing. But all right, let's go look at deck lists and see if there's any recommendations. Like I said, I didn't come in here trying to like shit on people's souls last time. So, I guess let's see if we can make up for any of it. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not going into a pile of shit. Like 3-wing, X-wing, no. Just not bothering with that. Built to last one last time. So, I actually don't hate this lineup. This is a lineup I saw before, probably around Nova, where they built around shields and like the younglings. So let's go see if we can look in and have any thoughts. All right, so they did 13 upgrades. Problematic is that 4 of them are yellow, and Youngling only works on blue upgrades. So there's only 9, and with 2 Younglings, it looks like they'd be trying to do it, twice around. But like I said, this is the Qui-Gon Jinn supposed to be combo deck, and then they run the Destiny Fulfilled, which lets you defeat one of the Younglings to give 3 shields to your characters. So I think this is where it kind of gets a little weird, right? Is because the upgrades that they have, there's 2 Neiman Masteries, which are solid, but the Diplos and the Neimans don't actually work with Built to Last. So now there's only 9 Built to Last options. None of them are 2, thankfully. So like I would probably adjust the upgrades to maybe be a little bit heavier, or decide to switch out one of the Younglings into like another Chirpa or something. I mean, not a Chirpa, like another Ewok warrior. Because then like they can get damage and like leave those guys around to either throw to things or decide to play like a glider. You're probably not going to play the glider, but if you're looking for like that cheap extra damage to get in, then that's like it's largely viable, especially if you just want to throw Chirpas at it, right? But all right, so we got a Yoda's lightsaber, we have a Rey's, Obi's. Nothing terrible so far named. The only dilemma you're going to run into, though, is like, so Vigilant has the 2 and the 2. If you hit modified sides, they're just actually terrible. So what I would have been looking here to do is Anakin's, but I don't actually see new cards. So maybe this isn't a new version. This is like the old stuff. And like respites are actually, yeah, respites tend to be better with, I think, like the Ewok warriors in my mind, because like the youngling, I guess you can get the upgrade down one cheap and then respite, but then you're giving up your die for it. So it's a weird thing there. But you can also just respite off of chirpers and the one Ewok warrior he brings in. Um, Garbage shoots. There's a lot of like tapping his own guys. He only has the one Jedi. The Qui-Gon Spirit is also a Jedi, so you could actually use that as well. The upgrades here are kind of lacking for what I'd be looking to do. With extra shield stuff, how many shields can you get? Because like if you do like Rey's, Anakin's, like Qui-Gon's, you could be a bit annoying. I think their base sides are lacking a little. Like the Diplos, the plan is to like Diplo, then Destiny Fulfilled, and then throw them all with Qui-Gon Spirit. But you don't really have focus here, so it makes things really really awkward. No actual draw engine. So I don't know. In my mind, this is a bit odd. I'd probably consider Treasure Lightsabers, because the Youngling can pick it up for one to draw, and it helps you find the other upgrades, and you can overwrite into the uniques. So I'd probably do that. They do have 2 Neiman Masteries to help, but it doesn't work on Qui-Gon Spirit, so they still can't do that. So like that's largely problematic. They only start with 2 resources, so if they discount to 2, then play it, the build to last gets 1 back. They're still short for chaining into their other 3 drops. Like there's just lots of problems I would see from this particular list. But looking at kind of like the upgrades and seeing what else is available is probably definitely something I would be looking to do, especially since like you have to hit the blue for the youngling. Either that, you might have to go a little higher on those, and kind of cut from some of these other areas. Like in theory, I think I'd be fine if I was running this deck if I went like upgrade, flee the scene, because then like you get to go to the next round, and your entire goal was just to rip through your deck and get a bunch of upgrades out, so you can use them and keep using them as your guys died. But all right, let's get out of here. Oh, he wanted Arena of Death, that's why. But he doesn't have a way to flip into it, so I guess he just starts with shields. Okay. We get a Spectre deck. I could consider looking at that one. Not really gonna go look at this Jedi Trials. Want no part of Infinite. 3-die deck, no. Dad and son, blah. DDs, Jesus Christ, what are these people building? Obi Bears seems sweet though. But didn't he get a point adjustment? Didn't he get a point adjustment? Did he stay 19? I thought one of the Obis got a point adjustment, but maybe I'm just wrong. This was just like Obi R2 originally. Maybe the other Obi got an adjustment? I don't know. I'm not gonna look at this anymore. But the base concept was is that if you focused the Obi die, you could focus the Barris die, and have like big combo chains. But you needed like an action sheet to actually do that reliably. So you often did it with other stuff. Like let's say you went with K2SO Barris plus like Anakin. Anakin could always flip to K2. Then because the K2 flipped, you could flip to Barris. God. What are they doing here? This Mo maybe? Let's go look. Ugh, I feel bad. Deja Vu, Grand Moff, that. Okay, so this is essentially Mill. Force Jump Director. So they're just going to try to ramp and then Mill. Yep. Mill with the tutor. I love tutors. Tutor's so good. I have no idea how that Mill deck operates though. Or like, I know what the concept is. But I played the villain mill deck. I think I built one of the videos, and it was disgusting. Like, I got absolutely destroyed by freaking Yoda. But that was Sodappy, so he could have just been douchebag. Um, all right, let's see. Let's go look. See if I need to yell at somebody. Okay, no, this is fine. This is someone else doing crazy shit. Looks fine. They have the Mega, they have the Pirate Ship. They want the Entourage route, but they don't really have focus. So it's like, it's not particularly great there. I think with this concept, you should probably consider running the stupid card that lets you resolve a yellow die that's showing a pay side, and then you could actually just run Hired Muscle. You have to click on this. No, I don't. That's atrocious. 12, 15. How do you have two other Wookiees here? $15, $23. Oh, there might be a 7-cost Wookiee. I just don't know what the hell kind of trash card that is. Gotta love it. All right. Let's see what else we get here. Plo Koon and his pails. Another mill. DJ. I had a DJ Maul deck. That thing was sweet. It wasn't very good, but it was sweet. Is this mono Vader with a retribution? Oh, it's probably the 6-cost like yellow guy. We really gotta talk to people about understanding they don't have to publish every deck. There really should be like a pop-up. Talk to Franco about that. It's like, yo, Franco, can you get a how to use this shit for people? First things first, you don't gots to hit publish. All right, we're gonna go to the third page, but I'm drowning here. I need to know. The guy costs 6. Main's 22. Where's the other 2 points? Where are your other 2 points, you scrub? Why are there 30 upgrades? You're just clicking random shit. Jeff Law, you've been banned. Never looking at your shit again. Pile of crap. And you take up a lot of pile of crap, you fucker. Did I miss anything? That's kind of funny there. Get the Bane die. Bitterly getting paid. So this one's, I think, just scoundrel up. Hired muscles and do shit, but like, what are you gonna do after that? And once again, Jeff Law, dude, why do you have like 50 deck lists? Can we just like remove you from my pile of search? What the... Dude, the stuff these people are building, I don't understand. I don't. Waiting for there to be no red supports in here. The Duchess. Deal 2 damage to each of your opponent's characters. Then deal 1 additional damage to each of those characters that are a trooper. Costs too much. I think TIE Bomber here is an interesting concept, right? Because you get to wad it. So you could like TIE Bomber, hit for 3, do it again. Same rounds, use the resources, go to the next round, use it for 3, put it back in your hand, recast it, use it for 3, use it for 3 again. So like TIE Bomber could be that card that just absolutely abused with Watembor. Because that's just like, just think of that concept, right? Like that seems pretty disgusting. The only dilemma is like, I guess if you get mitigated on the second usage, but you're like okay with that. I really want to go build a TIE Bomber Watembor deck now. Well, it's because like, so here's the thing. you have a 2 disrupt, so you can, mess with people. If Wat Tambor puts in the tie bomber, provided you're not playing against like a DM deck, right? You get the 2 disrupt. Okay, now you deal 4. Next round you deal the 4 bounce play. If you go 4/4 again, like that's an entire health pool. And like this guy has it, you can just run it with a single Wat Tambor. You can have face the enemy to protect. You can have counter intelligence to protect. And 4 indirects just add up because total health pools aren't that large. Even if they have like 27, as long as you can make sure that there's no mitigation and no DM, you could go do a lot of work. The main dilemma for the concept, right, is that you need to find tie bomber. But there is an easy enough alternative. So if you run like Coaxium, Coaxium Heist is a little weird there, right? Because you're going to give them 7 extra health. You could give them like Coaxium Heist to get yourself covert missions in the deck. Because like your main character dice don't have a damage side, but then like anytime you hit like Fickle or higher, the pike could eat it. So like that's probably not good. There's probably enough stuff that you could do something here though. Like tie bomb or Wat Tambor does seem really disgusting. So at base scenario, I do like the concept quite a bit. Not a fan of the Duchess. I feel like it costs too much. But realistically, the 5 cost siege engine thing also just costs too much. The 3 ranged here is fine. The 2 discards fine. 2 AoE, if we're going to get back to 3 wide stuff, we're looking at 6 damage from there. It's like an Umbaran hover tank without the pace side. So, you also just really can't complain about that. If you're getting to use it twice, like, it's fine. That first round, right? Because if you can do... The special is essentially 4 indirect. So if you, on against a 2 wide, but 3 wide, it's 6. So then it's like, all right, if you do it, then do it again. That's a lot. So I think the Duchess is probably actually fine here, even though I make these faces because I hate it. The dilemma is going to be like a man in refinery with this is a little odd. I could see myself where, because this is a vehicle, you could run like AR. So if you find, I think I could build a different list with like Wat Tambor with AR, so that we could like either AR a tie bomber if we felt we needed it, and that would let you kind of use it, then like go to use it, bounce it, and then do like the Wat stuff. Or you could just straight up AR for merchant freighter, to get like the resources you need to kind of do stuff early enough. So I think there's just a straight up concept here that could be used properly. Jabba for looking up the yellow events is really good. As you can see, like Reap was a great choice because you can get the +2 going. So then you can easily pair up that +2 with something else in Mega Ramp. So that's like, oh, okay, that's like a super sweet option. Obviously No Good to Me Dead, Desperate Measures, Entangle. You can run like Electroshock. So I think the list is a little wonky potentially from like the initial standpoint, but the base concept for tie bomber is actually just quite strong. I'd probably you could actually still run Vader's Fist as a 2 of because of Reaps. Because if you get to Reap and then go to 3, you're in a really good position. You have the Sentinel Messenger focus. You have the Wat Tambor ability focus. So like I think there's potential here for this. I'm probably gonna build this. I don't know what the rest of the setup would be, but there's lots of potential here. So see, as you can see, like I don't actually hate every single person and every single thing that's around. If a person went for something, and the combos are realistically viable, and kind of just do their job, and then there's a bunch of like efficient stuff around it, then it makes perfect sense. I didn't sit there and go like, oh my god, Wat Tambor, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, it's old as shit. No. This tie bomber thing could be really disgusting here. Because if you can actively force the 8 indirect through round 1, and then like round 2 you could be doing 12. Like that's almost a full team dead. Seems good enough. I think I'd be pretty content jamming that in real hard against somebody. But yeah, potential. But that's all I have for you guys today. It's a 40-minute video. I wanted to try to kind of keep it short. Actually, we can see if there's anything else here. Drez Milwaukee winner. New Thrawn. I don't know why this guy's a 1 of 1 die. because if I'm not mistaken, you could do elite for both. But like I said, we're not looking at Jeff Laws. Like, screw that guy. If you listen to this, Jeff Law, I'm sorry, but you post like 8 million deck lists, so I have to hate you. Absolutely, just have to hate you. And I don't mean actually hate you. Like, I don't wish bad things upon you, but I despise you. Despise, absolutely. No, but seriously, just like, you post too damn much. You don't need to. But I'd assume if you watched, listen to the stuff I read, you wouldn't be publishing every friggin' deck list like that. All right. No, old Ezra. I was like, wait a second, that looks funny. Yeah, it's just a lot of Snoke Callus. And that one's Zill. Screw you, Zill. 23 days. Jesus Christ. All right. So yeah, we'll leave on that good note where we looked at like the Watt deck. So there's definitely some potential there for that to kind of come back to the forefront and ruin people's lives. Let's see if that comes up by Worlds. We don't really have primes or CM primes, not too many of them, but they did mention that if you had a prime coming up and you wanted to push the date back, you could get in touch with, I believe it's Organized Play, to do that. So if you guys were trying to get CM to come out, which I believe was March 6th, and have a prime on that, that is an option. You just really, really want to like get in touch with the customer base and make sure people aren't showing up to that, the original dated event, and then like just being real sad, right? But all right, thanks for watching. You guys have a great one. Comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on if this was enjoyable and whatnot, and this way I know what I can keep doing for you guys. If you have any other thoughts and stuff to do, spread the word, share the info, and I'll do what I can. I just figured a lot of people liked that I did this in general the first time, so I figured I'd give a quick breakdown on like the value stuff, and then try to go through lists again, see if there's anything any gems that make sense. Literally gems. All right, have a great one. Deuces.